Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today, sir?
Just fine. How are you?
Good. So, just to let you know what we're going to do. First, I'm not an audio technician or video technician. So, what we'll
Okay.
do is record this. I'll give it to David Tingem, and we'll put it up on our website for the Minneapolis Times, probably within about 24 to 48 hours. I will
Okay.
send to both you and Max a link for it also too, and you
Okay.
can feel free to use it as you see fit.
All right. Thank you. Thank
Good.
you.
Good, no problem. So you're lucky you got Max. Max is a great person, by the way.
I'm glad to hear
Yeah,
it.
he's one of my former students. He's a great guy.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay. So anytime you're ready, you tell me we're ready to go rock and roll.
We're ready to go. Thank
All
you.
right. Great. Good. Okay. So my name is David Schultz. I'm editor in chief for the Minneapolis Times. Today is September 4th, 2025, and we are interviewing DeWayne Davis, candidate for mayor of city of Minneapolis. So I want to thank you first off for sitting down with us and talking to us today.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to the conversation.
Great, good. So I've got a bunch of questions and we can kind of work from those. And then if we want to innovate from there or follow up, we can go. All right.
Okay.
So I always have to ask people the question is whenever I start off talking to like a candidate, tell the residents of Minneapolis who you are and why
Hmm.
you're running for mayor.
Okay. I am DeWayne Davis. I am a minister, but I'm also um, I have called myself a public servant because ever since I graduated from college, I've worked in politics
Mhm.
and then shifted into ministry. I'm the 15th and youngest child of a minister and a kindergarten teacher
Mhm.
who started off their life together under the most segregated and violent period of Mississippi, of Jim Crow Mississippi.
Mhm.
But because I'm the youngest of 15, I was born in the 1970s, so I did not experience quite what my parents experienced or my older siblings did.
Mhm.
Um, but it informed everything in this sense. My parents survived and thrived against all odds. The world was not designed for them. My father had a sixth grade education, but worked very hard, became a minister, but also a businessman, co-owner of a hardware store and life insurance at the funeral home. Um, and my mother, after having 14 kids, went into the workforce. Well, actually went to college to
Mhm.
get her degree and was carrying me when she did that. But I tell you that part because it informed everything. What I didn't want to do, because I spent all of my life in church, I did not want to be a minister. So when I went off to college, I went off to Howard University, where I studied. I majored in economics and philosophy. And again, just sort of in so many ways, what I knew that I wanted to do, if it was not going to be ministry, the way we were raised, it was a sense of we had an obligation to service. And so government was where I found myself. And I spent 20 years in Washington, D.C., working for three members of Congress. I worked for a few think tanks and progressive think tanks and some associations, and got to the point, spent so many years in politics, got to the point where I did want something different. I felt really tired. I felt overwhelmed. Um, but I also felt like there was more to give. And a therapist suggested that I go back to church.
Mhm.
And I resisted that. And he said that because you're a church boy, you should go to church. You need balance in your life. And I resisted that so much. However, I did choose a church. And here's the funny thing, David. I did not pick a church because of any theological
Okay.
exploration or anything like that. And DC is filled with progressive churches that I felt comfortable as a gay man being a part of. But I picked a church because there was this beautiful church that was built from the ground up, and it had this wonderful glass top, and I just wanted to know what it looked like
Mhm.
inside.
Okay.
It was Metropolitan Community Church of Washington, D.C. And I went in there and it changed my life. And I knew I needed to explore this. Long story short, I ended up going to that church regularly with my husband, Kareem. We found a new life there, and I felt this tug to go to seminary. I went to seminary, and that's how I ended up here in Minneapolis, because a small church in Minneapolis on 31st and Park saw my profile, saw the work that I was doing in Washington. Even after seminary, I started working. I was a policy advisor for the National Episcopal Church, and I was working on the Affordable Care Act and,
Sure.
and marriage equality. They saw it and said, "Come here," and I came here, and we fell in love with the city. I'm running for mayor because the very first moment that we stepped here, we moved to North Minneapolis.
Okay.
And I remember seeing the disparities. I remember thinking about just so many things. In 2013, we moved here. There was a mayoral election that fall, and I just saw that we needed to do a lot more work. So I just threw myself into it, and even went to Mayor Hodges and said, "Listen, I'm a minister. If you wanna know what's going on the ground with people who are trying to make ends meet, who are trying to live, I'm just talk to me, because I can give you those stories." But as I got into this work and started doing so many things, working with North Point Clinic, I started working with Hennepin County on their HIV strategy. Started working with the Poor People's Campaign, and just so much going on. Um, and in that time, since that time, people were asking, would you consider running for something or doing something? And I would say, no, that's not how I'm going to serve. What shifted for me, and the reason I'm running, is uh, ever since George Floyd was murdered, I've got the sense that the city appears to be stuck, and that there is a great potential here. There are things that we can do, and we're equipped to do it. But it seems like we don't have the kind of leadership that would harness that and inspire us to do it. And so last summer, when people were really asking, "Are you going to do it? Are you going to do it?" And what really got me to say, yes, I think this is the path that I should take. It actually was when Joe Biden did so terribly in that debate.
Okay.
And I knew then that there was going to be something. If Donald Trump became president, I was going to have to work in a different way. I was going to have to operate a different way. And what I mean by that is, David, our democracy is certainly at that time, I didn't know we were going to, but I just sensed that, given what we had seen, that the illiberalism and the autocracy that he was forecasting was on its way.
Right.
And I needed to fight differently. And I thought about my parents. I'm just learning some of the things that my parents did by reading history books.
Yeah.
Their names are showing up in things that they did, things that they never talked about.
Interesting.
And I said, you know what? If we're going this way, I want to be a part of helping our city, our democracy, not only serve the people and do good work and make sure that the city works for everybody, but we also are going to have to be on the front lines of resisting the illiberalism and autocracy that's coming from Washington. To me, we're at a mission and moral moment. It's one personally for me, but it's also one that I think this city is encountering. It's one that the nation is encountering. And each of us is going to have to figure out which way they're going to have to do the work. And I'm choosing this way. I had some wonderful advice from a spiritual mentor of mine, a ministerial mentor of mine. And she said, you are not guaranteed to win, but if you have the skill, will, and energy to make your case about the kind of world you want to see, then you must do it. And so that's why I chose to do it.
Let me do a follow-up here. This is interesting here. I think you would agree, I think you said it here, that George Floyd's murder was a pivotal point in Minneapolis in history.
Yeah.
In your opinion, why is the city stuck? I think it's sort of your words you're saying are kind of stuck or kind of frozen or something like that. What happened with that moment?
That's a very good question, David. Here's what I think, and I don't want it to come off as an ad hominem, but I think this is where the kind of leadership that we needed from the mayor, but all leaders, not just, but all, we didn't get it. And some of that, of course, was perhaps people were so shocked and traumatized themselves. I assume that Mayor Fry would rise to the occasion. And by the way, I really did reach out to him and talk to him about how to show up, which is why I think he tapped me to co-chair the community safety work group.
Okay.
I had avoided any kind of formal appointment to any kind of commission or anything up until that point. I just never, every time I've been asked, I would sort of step out. But on this one, after George Floyd was murdered, and after the mayor said, "Okay, I want a work group to look at this," I got involved because, again, what I really wanted the mayor to do, especially after any kind of traumatic event that a city or government goes through, is to be that agent of reconciliation, healing, and trauma. So after George Floyd was murdered, there was a missed opportunity. And I'm going back to my time throughout Washington. I know it's not a perfect analogy, but I remember after the Alfred P. Morrow building was bombed in Oklahoma City, and Bill Clinton came up to Capitol Hill, and I also said, Republicans hated him, and yet there was a moment where, in that moment, in a few months thereafter, where there was a very intentional effort to not, put the thumb on the scale of politicization,
Right.
real trying to. So here we've got to marshal everything we have to address this together and be one and figure it out. Same thing happened with George W. Bush from January 20th, 2001 to September 2001. I was working for Congressman Chet Edwards, actually George W. Bush's congressperson at the time, working to thwart his agenda, his No Child Left Behind, his tax cuts. I was all in it. But after 9/11, just for a moment, a wonderful moment, he rose to the occasion. He was an agent of sort of pulling us together.
Okay.
So after George Floyd was murdered, I think we can say we're stuck. I think at some level we didn't have someone really guiding us through that conversation, a leader trying to help us sort of understand it. And so we were relying on, I think, we were relying on things to happen for us. So I think people thought when Derek Chauvin was arrested and prosecuted that, we'll be okay. But you still need an intentional effort to be thinking about what we're going through, talking about what we're going through. That's also what I think is why we can't make any sense out of George Floyd Square. On a technical sense, there is nothing wrong with the plan, and I trust Councilmember Andrea Jenkins, and so I lean toward the plan that they came up with. But the reason I think that there is still so much smoke around it is because we missed an opportunity at the time. We should have been talking just a few months after George Floyd was murdered. We should have been talking to the family and the residents. We should have been talking about what is it going to take to not only honor and remember what happened, but also thrive and rebuild. And we should have been in conversation with. This would have been an opportunity for if I were mayor. That would have been a time where I would have invited some of the families from the 9/11 memorial. From 9/11 who were involved in the conversations around the memorial. I would have called the King family around and the King Center to talk about how do you sort of make sense of something and how do you create an opportunity that brings people together to figure out how to remember this. So in essence, And I think we're sort of caught in that moment. We haven't found a way to trust each other again, to believe in each other again, to figure out how to move forward again. And because when you do that, then your later disagreements, you can weather what they are. And I don't think we've done that well. So even now, every little thing is an argument, every little thing, because we don't trust each other. We can't see each other. We can't understand that we are all in this together.
Very good. All right. Let's start. Good answer here. Interesting answers you're giving here. Tell me what you think are the top 3 or 4 or 5, whatever you think the number is, strengths of Minneapolis. What's it have going for it?
That's a great.
Because everybody always wants to talk about the criticisms, and we'll get to that in a couple of minutes here, or the challenges. But what's it got going for it?
Oh, thank you. I talk about that a lot because I believe in this city, and I believe in one of the biggest strengths that I think we have is an abundance of good, smart, dedicated people. That is, every corner of this city, we have people who care about the city deeply, who have great values about what it means to be community. You can feel it, even when we disagree in some sense, we also sort of understand we have something special here. And so people bring that to it. The second strength of Minneapolis is our tradition of progressive response to issues. We take care of each other. We look at what the hard things. Since the great Hubert Humphrey, we have really tried to create a city that works for. So that's what I heard when I was coming here. It was a progressive oasis. Mm-hmm. It was one of those places where it really had it going. So that's another strength. The third strength that we have, of course, is just the natural beauty of this city, the landscape, the parks, the lakes. That is important. That is why UNICEF, actually, it's interesting. UNICEF says that we are a child-friendly city, not for any substantive reason, but it is calculate all these parks that we have, all of these amenities, and to me, that too is also why a city in sort of like with temperatures that fall so low can still have people. I tell you, like, that's the price we pay for this bucolic summer months where we just want to get out there. But that is something that is going for it. As a matter of fact, it actually, I think, is why even I criticize us not having a good built out transit system or any of the things that I think big modern cities have. However, but I still think that's why people are so interested in it, because of that natural beauty. And fourth, we do have a history, and this is why this mission moment is so critical. We do have a history of responding proactively and constructively, excuse me, when something goes wrong. This is why the George Floyd thing to me stands out as an anomaly. When Minneapolis was known as Murderapolis, that was untenable. And so it was an all hands on deck, whole of government response to address it. And so we're no longer known as that. And so we have a history of sort of figuring it out and doing it. So what really is concerning me, after 5 years after George Floyd, the kind of real substantive change, we kind of, shrunk from it. So anyway, that's one of our strengths, because that's a history that we have. We do know how to respond, and we do it. We roll up our sleeves and we get to work. And that's something I'm calling on.
All right. Okay. All right. So let's flip it around.
Yeah.
The 3 or 4 or 5 challenges that you see that the city is facing. And I know you mentioned a little bit about the trust type of issues. But if you want to elaborate that, or others, but I'm curious, what do you see as the challenges?
So before I get into some specific policy changes, I do think there's a larger issue, and I think it comes in the issue when you hear about the disparities. Mm-hmm. That is a big challenge for Minneapolis and for Minnesota. That there's something that happened in our history, and of course the history of segregation, the history of discrimination. There's something in us that we have not found the metal. Maybe it's the the population is of ethnic difference and racial difference is not high enough, but some way those disparities are stubborn,
Yep.
and it impacts everything that we do. So as a larger issue, that's the frame under which all of the other challenges that we're dealing with, we're going to have to deal with. That we have this stubborn discrepancy and disparities among people. We have extreme poverty at the same time of just outstanding wealth. That's an issue that's happening in the nation, but we have to think about those things in the framework of what we have to give. So then I just want to hold that there, because that's really one of our challenges that we have to always be thinking critically about it. We have to be very intentional, both at every level of government, city, county, state. We have to really be thinking about that and really working on it. But that impacts the challenges we have as a city. We have a city, we're no different than many other cities around a decreasing tax base. All of us relied for too many years on leasing office spaces to large corporations, and we thought that sort of relationship was going to continue uninterrupted over the years, and it has changed our how we raise revenue. It is a decrease in tax base, so we've really got to be thinking about how to reimagine and rethink what happens downtown. We're not going to have leasing of office space in the numbers that we've had in the past. It's just not going to happen that way. And so we've got to think about that. And we have some challenges. Look, we are probably at the end of converting to residential downtown. So the kind of commercial tax base that we had is not going to come back in any way like it had in the past. We also, the conversions that we can do around, one of the things that we've been talking about is how do we convert them to data centers and other kinds of ways to use that downtown space to increase that tax base. Well, we have to compete with the suburbs, the exurbs, and the rural areas with that. So this is a challenge that we're really going to have to think. Now, we knew before COVID that there was a fall off. We knew there was a cliff on this. Many reports were saying that was going to be. So that's one of our challenges. We've got to rethink downtown. We've got to rethink how to thrive it. Another challenge we have, of course, is housing affordability. And I guess you can put / homelessness.
Okay.
That is a real issue because, and I lived in Washington, D.C. I got into Washington, D.C. in the early 90s when nobody wanted to live there. It was still fighting the crack epidemic. The government was broke. It was just really hollowed out. No one to live there. And over time, as subsequent administrations, everywhere from the Clinton administration to the George W. administration, to the Obama administration, everybody wanted to live in D.C. During the Great Recession in 2007, 2008. When capital was leaving every other place, it was landing in D.C. Mm-hmm. So what happened is private developers built all of these. The landscape is very different than what I got there, but it bid up the price. Mm-hmm. And affordability is going. Now, that's what Minneapolis still has going for it. We are still an affordable city. And if we don't balance out that private housing or the privatized housing, we're going to lose that affordability. Some people say, I think one candidate said they don't want us to be like Detroit. No, I don't think we have a risk of becoming like Detroit. I think the risk we have is becoming like D.C. and San Francisco, where we have all these wonderful new developments going. And by the way, I'm not opposed to that. I think that's important because we do have a supply issue. We need more housing. As a matter of fact, that's what's going on in the nation. We have a supply issue here. We need more housing so that the market could be a true market price for your housing. And so I think it's important to have that supply, and we need, certainly the private developers can go down a little bit on affordability, and you need teachers and firefighters and police officers need a place to stay. But we also need to balance that with real intentional development of housing, at the affordable housing for people at the lowest end of the scale. And we're missing some of that. And that's going to be, that's also one of the reasons for our homelessness issue. And so we don't have that affordability. We have a lot of renters. Renters are especially renters who make minimum wage, are very susceptible. And so we really got to do some work on the affordability and then / housing, homelessness, because that's where it comes from. Another challenge we have here is a police department that has been shown through a pattern and practice investigation to be violating civil rights. To a federal pattern and practice investigation and a state pattern and practice investigation found this. And so that is a challenge. We need to rebuild trust in our police. We need our policing to work. We need to get the response time to 911, the 911 response times down. This is just critically important. There's no way around it. And we have to reform our police department. It has to be different. That culture has to change. And that's why the court enforceable settlement agreement is so important. That is a challenge. I think as mayor, I will talk to everyone about that process, about what's going on. Right now, we only hear about the good things that are going on. We're doing great. But, in the last report of the Independent Monitor, there are some red flags in it. And we need to be having real conversations with the police department, with the chief, but also with the residents. Say, look, here are the things, here's our growing edge. Here's where we've got to do some work. Here's where we're falling short, and we're going to make sure. So a mayor has to set expectations about what he or she wants to see. And so that's one of our challenges. The fourth challenge, and I think it's something that we don't talk enough about, it really does have to be around our investments in our young people. I know that you hear people say that all the time, but look, if you read our Community Safety Work Group report, we have a big recommendation on investment in our youth. And what we said was, the mayor should convene a biannual summit 2 times a year. Everybody who has some piece of youth programming, the city, nonprofits, the county, the park board, the youth coordinating board, and begin to make sure that not only are we attentive to, but we're making available services to children from toddler to 18. And that even there should be no barrier to programming. Everything that we have to offer, we should make sure that people have access to, and we should defray the cost so that that cost can't be a barrier to low income families. So we've been saying that because what we really said is that, and by the way, we made that recommendation in the spring of 2022, right before we had that spate of car thefts by young people in the summer, because we really understood something. You really have to keep your focus. By the way, this is also why if you hear those great outcomes coming out of Baltimore, it's because that's exactly what Baltimore decided to do. I didn't even realize, because when I said, what did Baltimore do differently? And when I saw that investment, I was like, we were talking about that 3 years ago. we were saying, do that 3 years ago. We could have. So it was a confirmation, but I really think that we still can do that. This is something that we ought to put our attention on. We really ought to have a concerted effort on it, because I think that's where we're missing. And there's some promising signs. Look, the Stable Homes, Stable Schools program that the city has been doing, the state legislature making sure that school lunch is free. I mean, those are kind of things that started off. But we really have we have to do those kinds of investments so we can make sure that we're actively providing diversion. We're actively providing intervention, really getting in there. And finally, since the shooting at Annunciation School, I've been thinking a lot about what we can do, given the obstinance of the political obstinance to real gun control.
Mm-hmm.
And this sort of investments in youth is a part of it. But, I think one of the things that sometimes we do as a city, we support violence interruption. We do all these programs, but I begin to think about, we should really have a refreshed and revised, regularly refreshed, regularly updated, comprehensive violence intervention and reduction plan that everyone is involved in, that everyone is looking at, that everyone is helping us revise and rethink. And that's to sort of get the public safety issue writ large, because I also think that impacts other things. That impacts the affordability, that impacts people wanting to live here, that impacts who wants to go to the police academy. So we really have to be on that. And that should happen, that refreshing should happen every 2 years, maybe, if you can. I know that's a lot of work, but every 2 years, that plan should be refreshed, relooked at. It should bring in people at all levels. That's what I use the phrase, all hands on deck, whole of government effort, to make sure that we're addressing it. And if we did that, while we're, quote, waiting on the state or waiting on the nation to do some work on gun control, we could be having an impact on gun violence to the extent that we are really engaged in trying to stop the scourge of it.
Okay, great. All right. So assuming the voters like what they hear, mm-hmm. and they elect you as mayor come November, day one, tell me a couple of things that you would do on day one.
Day one, and hopefully in the transition period, I would have figured out a lot of the sort of what the department and organizational chart.
Sure.
Day one, I want to be able to, announce the people who are going to be helping me do that. I mean, really, like real hard. So we're going to be talking about homelessness on day one.
Okay.
What department, which personnel is really doing it, and by the way, set expectation of what I want to see,
sure.
so that you will know, not just because I gave you something during the campaign, but you will know, and you will have it from my mouth how to hold me accountable. So on the homelessness thing, I will certainly be right there with the chief to talk about expectations on the court enforceable settlement agreement, what I expect to see, the changes I expect to see. In essence, on all of those things I told you, they're priorities. I want to be able to point to the people and set my expectation with you right away. By the way, another thing is, and sharpen your pencils, David, because they're going to be regular press conferences to tell you, to stand there before you and take those hard questions, to say, look, this is what's going on, to have you come to me. And then I think it's important for me to say, another thing you see on that first day would be a real, and hopefully the camera's following me to see me do it, where I go to every city council person, no matter who they are, to say, I am ready to get to work. I am ready to have you work with me. I know we're going to disagree. I know we are. But I want to be a working partner with you so that when we disagree on this one issue, that you trust me and I trust you enough to get to work on the next thing that we've got to do.
Yeah. You almost anticipated my next question, is that given the fact that for the last few years, the mayor's office and city council have had, I will say, a contentious relationship. That may be a good description here. You may have already partly answered this here. How would you address on that relationship, or improve it? I'm not sure what word I'm looking for here.
Yeah.
How would you address the fact that they are also elected too?
Yes. That's exactly right. That, to me, actually, David, you just said it for me best. When we gave the mayor the executive mayor system, we and it's fine that we did that. As a matter of fact, as a political scientist, Minneapolis is one of those cities that we looked at as a weak mayor system and talked about, and we often talked about how a mayor can do it. So some of the executive mayor system, in academically and just sort of, I didn't see anything wrong with that. But what we did not do, we did not change the governing structure of the city. And so, again, this is the legislative branch. This is the people who represent particular wards, and they are duly elected just like I am. The only difference, however, is that every one of their constituents is my constituent. And you can't forget that. You shouldn't forget it. So the first thing is that to show them all due respect afforded them because of that. They are not a foil for me. Even if I disagree with them, they're not a foil. They're not some character actor in my drama. That's not it for me. But what I will show with that kind of respect. But here's another thing. This is the work that I've seen done in Washington for many years. Believe it or not, up until I'd say 2010, even Democrats, no matter how much fighting you saw, there was an attempt to work and to govern. I saw the difference starting in 2010. Some of that had to do, I think, with the presence of Barack Obama, but that's a whole nother story. However, so what that means is you can't get work done, even when you disagree, if you don't know and you don't understand what it is the person you disagree with. You don't understand what they want. Not only so that I can get my strategy and my agenda in order, but I need to know what each of those council members care about, what they want, what they're trying to do. Because then we can begin to see where we can work together. We can begin to fashion how to move next step. I know I won't be able to get everything that I want, but I also know that they can't get everything that they want. And yet we can begin to work. And I think this is how you build that trust. And I've said to all of them, you don't have to figure out what I want by reading the Star Tribune. You don't have to worry about what I'm trying to do in a backhand way. I'm going to come and talk to you about what I want. And then here's the thing. If we can't work together, if we start talking, we try to figure out what we're going to do, and we still can't get it together, I still think why don't we give and take, do that hard, unsexy work behind the door where we're trying to figure out how to fashion something and bring it out. I think if you do that and people see that you're willing to hear and you're willing to work, you build trust. Here's another thing that I have said I will do. And I think this is the key of building that trust so that we can understand, even when we disagree, we can go out there and say, you know what, I disagree, but this is what we ended up with. But here's another thing I said to them. Listen, when we disagree, I really am not going to I'm not going to turn the city council or a city council member into my permanent enemy. I'm not going to point to them and say they're this. I'm not going to do that. And one reason I'm not going to do that is because I still want to work on things I think we agree. I know, and here's why I know. In a city like Minneapolis, I know that some of the things that the mayor and the city council are disagreeing with, there's just not even a whit of light of difference between them. But because of ideological rigidity, because of political gamesmanship, we're acting like we can't do something. That's not the game I want to play. I don't have time for it. And so even when we are that close, I want to be very specific. This also goes to, having regular press conference, but I've also committed to city council people. I will be willing to have a joint meeting in your ward, even when we're agreeing or disagreeing, to stand before voters and say, here's why I disagree, or here's where my disagreement is, and be held accountable for it. That's what I'm willing to do. Oh, David, did I lose you? Oh, David, I think I lost you. Ah, David. Are you there, David?
I am there. The wonders of technology. Okay. Hopefully we didn't lose everything. I don't think we did.
I don't think we did. Hopefully, yeah. Well, it said I'm still recording. I was looking at that. I was still here and
Yeah.
it's still recording. So
Okay. So I hope so. Hopefully we got everything.
okay.
If not, we'll have to figure out something here. But what I was starting to say is that early voting starts September 19th.
Yes.
Minneapolis uses ranked choice voting. What do you say to voters to why you should be their first choice? And then if they're not your first choice, what would you say to them to make you your second choice?
So what I often say to people, I said, look, I'm your first choice. I should be your first choice because it is time for new leadership. It really is, and I have the experience. I have the know-how. And the vision to lead us into this next phase of our life together.
Okay.
Rank me for. We've had a mayor who had 2 terms to do what he did. It's a different city than the one that he inherited, and I don't think he is. He's not. I don't think he's situated to really address it. He says over and over again about he's learned a lot, and I don't doubt that that's true. But right now, we need new leadership. We need a new vision for this context, and we are in a very different context than we were when he first was elected. And again, with the other candidates, I say, I have far more experience than they have. I've been doing this far longer than they have.
Okay.
And so you really do need someone at the helm, especially given what's coming out of Washington. You need someone at the helm who is ready to go day one and who can deal with this. If I'm not your first choice, the reason I should be your second choice is because I believe I'm the only candidate that can bring together all of the people who are supporting someone else. I think I'm the one who I think I stand right there in the nexus and the middle for everyone to be able to work with. That's what I've been doing, David, since I got here.
Okay.
Working with people from all parts of the city, living in North Minneapolis, working with the county, working with the city. The churches that I serve, people of just so many different backgrounds. A church like Plymouth Congregational Church that I just recently served, a large church with very capable, smart, just dedicated people. And guess what? We disagree all the time. And the one thing I tell people is that disagreement is fine. But to move forward, we have to figure out how to build something that we both can be proud, that we all can be proud of, and that can lead us away. Let me be your second choice. If you want Mayor Fry, if you want Senator Omar, if you want Jazz, that's fine. But understand something. I am uniquely situated among all of them to be the person that you can work with. If you like Jacob Fry, there's something in me and something that I do that I think you can appreciate. If you like Senator Omar, I think there's something in my vision and something that the things that attracted you to him, I possess some of those things too. And the most important part of it is that I integrate that. I bring everybody to the table. I talk to everybody so that we can figure our way forward. That's the kind of leadership we need right now in Minneapolis.
My last question, and maybe you've already addressed it here, is before we close, do you have anything else you'd like to say to the voter or the residents of Minneapolis in terms of maybe summarizing your message or something like that?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. And here's what I say to people all the time, David, and it's what I truly believe. We're running a hopeful campaign. I'm not running because I think everything is it's not fixable. Everything is simple. We don't have to accept that we can't do something. We don't have to accept gridlock. We don't have to accept that, we don't have to accept fighting. We don't have to accept any cynicism at all. You asked me a question about what's great about us. That is the promise and power of Minneapolis. We have an abundance and riches of people, of creativity, of ideas, of tradition that can help us weather what's coming next. And so we have everything we need everything we need, not only to address the challenges that I talked about, but also to resist what's coming out of Washington, to stand firm and stand strong in who we are. And here's why I think it's so important, critically important going forward too, because not only will we be able to deal with what we have to deal with as a city, but if we truly understand the power and promise of our city, if we really lean into that and work together, build trust and figure out how to address those issues, I think we can be a model for the rest of the nation. Every other city, I really firmly believe this. When we get it right, and notice when I said when we get it right, when we show how it's done, I think all the other cities can look at it and say, Minneapolis did it, we can do it too. And that's how we can shift where this nation is going. That's why we can arrest that march toward autocracy that we're in. If we show it, if we show real mettle, we show how we did it, how we really show how it works, I think we can be really a real beacon. And that's the thing. I know we can do it. I know we can do it. Right now, it just means really coming together, doing that hard work, building trust again, looking at each other with different eyes now and say, you know what? I'm going to give it the very best that I've got. And here's my promise to you. As your mayor, I'm going to give it the very best that I got. If it falls in such a way that I am not mayor, I'm going to give it the very best that I got because I believe in us and I want you to believe in us again too.
Okay. Thank you very much. This is David Schultz, editor-in-chief for Minneapolis Times, interviewing DeWayne Davis, candidate for the city of Minneapolis for mayor. Thank you for the interview today, and I wish you well.
Thank you. It's so good to meet you. I've heard about you. Thank you so much.
Good. Thank you. Good luck to you.
All right. Take care.